I'm the realist, and as a PhD engineer, I focus on what works. We have learned what women want. Today, I'll show you who they choose and where you likely rank. Let's begin with a category where most men reside, which is not people. To any given woman, the ratio between men who are potentially dangerous and those who are familiar is billions to just several. This fact raises a statistical problem and a female psychological bias against men. The first issue is that strangers simply are not perceived as people. The death of one man is a tragedy. The death of millions is a statistic. Some women may put up a politically correct facade of empathy to strangers, but that evaporates the moment she becomes personally involved. The second problem is women's psychological bias against unfamiliar men. These men, which is the majority of people in today's dating market, are literally deemed less dateable by virtue of being unfamiliar. As such, the majority of men are invisible to women. They are wallpaper, and life will pass them by without notice. This is why I've placed the not people category at the very far back. Simply put, men must present some form of value in order to be seen by women. Loyalty is often the go-to value proposition, especially for young men who have little else to offer. After all, shouldn't love triumph over all? This approach is misguided at best and delusional at worst. Giving attention and commitment without additional values will get you out of the not people zone, alright? Straight into being a creep. Imagine a woman who is 1 out of 10 on looks, 300 pounds overweight, and hasn't showered in 2 weeks. And she is just throwing herself at you, texting day and night. Her smell wafts across the room, and oh no, she's coming over. A man leading with loyalty without being resourceful or attractive is worse than objects. These men actively degrade the woman's perceived self-image, ego, and safety. At social events, I've personally seen this happen. A woman asked me to keep her away from a man who has asked for a number, only for her to turn around and ask for mine. I was not showing attention, while the other guy was. However, he was a little unkempt, didn't dress as sharply, did not have a fancy degree, and that made him a creep. Loyalty alone just does not work. If it did, every celebrity woman, from singers to actors to idols, would be in a relationship with the unemployed, overweight, basement-dwelling superfan who spends 14 hours a day consuming her content. Another way to gain personhood is through demonstrating attractiveness. Look good, dress well, and exude personality. As explained previously, this is not easy. Some factors you cannot control, and most require years and considerable expense. All of this, and it wouldn't even work on most women. Even so, both men and women are okay with the results. Promiscuous women do have sex with these men, and I rarely hear attractive men lament their celibacy. However, quality women don't tend to stay long-term with these men. For clarity, I define quality women as those who are chosen for committed relationships and for legacy by men who possess at least 2 of these 3 qualities. These women do not pick men who are only attractive because these men cannot reliably sustain a future, and certainly not a family. This is not to say that these men cannot get married, far from it. Lesser women do marry men who are only attractive all the time, but these relationships are fraught with turmoil, and as years pass, their looks fade while baggage accumulates. Still, at the end of the day, Chads do get laid, especially in their prime. The last straightforward path is to demonstrate resources. This alone is better than being a creep, but it also opens the man to exploitation. Getting rich requires a young man to plant seeds that his older self reaps. An average 20-year-old needs decades to develop his career, invest his resources, and to accumulate riches and become noticeably wealthy. By that time, his attractiveness would have naturally and inevitably declined as a factor of age. The vast majority of top earners are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and these men never stop preferring early 20s women, who are looking for men only several years older, not decades. The exception to this rule is going to a poorer country to date. This type of a relationship tends to be the most transactional. A woman is clearly giving her valuable time and body for resources, and the old rich man is paying for the opportunity. I do not judge ethics, only what works. But remember, most men are not going to get rich, and if money is all they have, transactions are all they get. The worst of the best is the settling or friend zone. The majority of good guys are here because getting resources is easier than becoming attractive. Wealth grows and attractiveness diminishes as a function of time, while loyalty is discretionary. Most long-term relationships and marriages fall under this category. Loyalty and sufficient resources are often the bare minimum requirements to a serious relationship, and they also happen to be what's possible for many men to achieve. In fact, unambitious, more selfish, and less competent women will choose men in this category over more attractive options because the men here are easy. These men do not have a lot of optionality, so they tend to be more loyal. They can already provide a decent lifestyle without the woman exerting much effort. Meanwhile, the woman has more control due to her own optionality, at least before having children. Thus, these men get settled on. The issue is that she will cheat or even leave if a more attractive opportunity is perceived to be within reach. I've been on dates with women who later admitted to already having a committed boyfriend. These guys are faithful, even wealthier than the average person, but they just happened to be a little shorter and less masculine, aka less attractive. Therefore, while this zone can work for some men, it has considerable risks. And if one day the woman believes there to be a better option outside the relationship, even if she does not cheat or leave, you can expect more misery in the man's life. None of the categories covered so far are ideal, and that's too bad for the majority of men. Each dimension is already extremely expensive to develop, and ranking highly on two axes is exceedingly costly and rare. It is not fortunate for most, but the remaining zones are only available to a minority of men. If you find this video useful so far, please subscribe and hit the bell. I'm building a complete, realistic framework for dating and life, and you won't miss the rest by subscribing. On the appealing side of the archetypes, at least for the men involved, is the playboy. These men are highly attractive and also wealthy. As such, they are exceptionally rare, and even if you get one, do not expect loyalty. The opportunity cost of being exclusive to any individual woman is extremely high due to these men's incredible sexual options. Ladies, it does not matter if you're objectively an 8, 9, or even 10. A man who is both attractive and rich is much more valuable on the dating market due to his rarity. This is because while men rate women along a bell curve, women rate men on a skewed curve. For 100 women that men rate as a 10, there might be 5 men that women rate as a 10. Combining these rare looks with wealth that is almost certainly generational, playboys are exceptionally rare. By men's nature and their level of access to women, playboys simply will not settle down for as long as they can. Therefore, these men are bad because they have what women want but choose not to give it to them. Still, plenty of women will throw themselves into the flames of delusion with the idea that he can't be tamed. He cannot. It requires an extraordinary woman to outcompete everyone else and get very lucky in that this particular playboy chose to get married when she was the one in his vicinity. Are you truly this exceptional? Can you gamble away your short prime years, and do you expect him to remain loyal as you age? Even for a playboy, he had to put in tremendous effort on his attractiveness, and it's not like the woman helped him get rich, so why would he commit? Consequently, the optimal zone for an ideal classical relationship is the husband material. The men in this category tend to be fit and smooth, and they are looking for long-term relationships. The only drawback is they are unproven. They could still be a student or perhaps a young professional. This is where women need to apply discretion. The smart ladies will identify and invest into someone who is attractive and committed, who has the potential to gain resources as time passes. This is very much like picking a stock. Some women may retort, but oh, the realist, what if I spend all this time and effort with a man but he cheats on me when he gets rich? Ladies, this is why you need to have a selection strategy. Unlike girls who go through puberty and become a woman, becoming a man isn't so simple and free of hardship. He sold his soul to become attractive and potentially wealthy. It's the bare minimum for you to select wisely. And nothing is risk-free. Infidelity is a two-way street. How can he be certain that you wouldn't cheat? The future is uncertain, and this is a fact of life that you will either learn to manage or unnecessarily suffer through. Well, why can't I just find a man who is loyal, wealthy, and attractive? To that I say, because Prince Charming, by virtue of his qualities, cannot exist for any meaningful period of time on the dating market. You will not find the unicorn. Let me explain. The closest archetype to the perfect man is the playboy, because on the surface, it appears easy for a playboy to become more loyal and hence become Prince Charming. And that's why the allure to fix him can be so powerful. The problem is, unless you're the literal 1 in a million woman who offers world-class looks and status, why would he commit? Relationships are an exchange of value, and to a man who has abundant optionality, there's almost nothing in existence that is more valuable. He does not need your money, he does not need your labor, and no, he certainly does not need your emotional connection or intelligent conversations. The only thing he can realistically offer is sex, which you're trying to exchange for sex from everyone else, who are guaranteed to be sexier than you by probability and as a factor of your age. No one pays more for what they can get cheaper elsewhere, and he does not need to provide exclusivity in order to get sex or even a relationship. Well, what if my love and effort shake him to his core and he lets go of his ways, becoming Prince Charming? First, life is not a K-drama. Second, before commitment, the game of mating and dating absolutely does not work on gratitude. And what does he have to be grateful to you for? When you found him, he was already attractive and wealthy. Would you have treated him the same way if he was 2 feet shorter and broke? Of course not. People who encourage the search for unicorns are either lying or delusional. The illusion of its possibility has destroyed and continues to ruin relationships and lives. That said, it does not mean Prince Charmings do not exist. I only said that you can't find one, not that it's impossible to have one. This archetype is possible to develop under very specific conditions, which I will cover in the future. This video illustrates what is generally true. It is not a moral judgment. So, what do you think? Comment your thoughts down below, subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next one.